Our next speaker is Abby Schwarz. Dr. Abby Schwarz is a marine biologist in animal behavior and ecology. She's now retired from the Department of Biology at Langara College. She has loved the ocean from childhood and is passionate about conserving marine ecosystems. Abby has published papers on acoustic communication in fish and on underwater noise pollution. Abby has also studied sex change in tropical damselfish and learning in red-tailed hawks. For 3 years, she was the lead of the Intertidal Biodiversity Survey for SPES, the Stanley Park Ecology Society. She is a co-founder of Schwarz, the Society for Canadian Women in Science and Technology, and a proud member of Evidence for Democracy.
Hello. Oh, this is fantastic. It's marvelous to see so many people. And my thanks, as always, to the organizers. Well, and hopefully we'll all get through this before the precipitation comes down. I won't mention the R word. Well, science is a human endeavor. It's a way of learning about the world around us. And it's based on the scientific method. And the thing about the scientific method is that it produces replicable results. And these results, because they're replicable, are dependable, right? It's not based on faith. It's not based on political ideology. So an understanding of science is required by us, by all the citizenry, to deal with the great issues of our times, because the politicians sure as hell don't have it. And if you think that the government uses our tax dollars to fund various things, it's really important that the government understand that we are the taxpayers and we have a big say in what they fund. I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. So healthy science flourishes in a society that values transparent and free dissemination of knowledge. And the price, somebody said, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. And I think never was that truer than today. When I was a new researcher, I got a reprint request from a scientist in Poland. And I was absolutely amazed and delighted that somebody on the other side of the world shared my interest and enthusiasm and offered his own. At the best, science is a global community. And my emphasis today is going to be on empowering people, everybody. So, a brief comment first about the nuts and bolts of getting published. Let's assume a project has been done and that the investigator has written a manuscript on her work and submitted it to the editor of a journal. The editor will then send it out for rigorous evaluation by a selection of her peers, without revealing their names to the author of the paper. And this ensures that the peers can review the paper knowing that no one will be looking over their shoulders. The methods, and if they approve the paper, it will be published. The methods, results, and conclusions have to be honestly and clearly described so that other investigators can test those results under different circumstances. The journal in which the paper appears has to be available to everyone, perhaps through the internet. This is the kind of climate that science thrives on. So, why are there so many negative stereotypes about science? As a co-founder of Schwarz, the first time we had a conference, there were a bunch of high school students sitting in the audience. I was sitting behind them, and they were snickering to each other, the girls were, about how, what is science and why are these people so poorly dressed? And the very next person to come on the stage, this is gospel truth, I swear, was, I won't name her name, she's retired now, an electrical engineer from UBC. And she was dressed in a form-fitting white dress with big black and red roses on it, and she had a very curvaceous figure, high-piled black hair, lots of curls. I was very jealous. And she was wearing 2-inch or 3-inch spike heels, and that really made me jealous. Yes, but what was best, what really got me, and it still gets me today, was the gasps from the kids in the seats ahead of me. And all I could think of was, yes! You know. But in the meantime, scientists are still looked at as mad scientist, nerd, geek, only talks technobabble, and no social skills at all. And it sounds funny, but you know, to some degree, these stereotypes have arisen because we scientists are trained to communicate with each other, within our specialties and across specialties. But we do not have training in talking to non-scientists about what we do and why we love it. And this is an enormous mistake, because understanding science is possible for everyone. And I have no patience with people who put themselves down. It's not having no patience, it's just wanting to set it right. Anyway, the other thing about universal knowledge of science is that it's vital to our survival on this planet and to the survival of other species that share the planet with us. Because, you see, if people are turned off by science or by its practitioners, they're less likely to support it, right? One of the goals of Evidence for Democracy, of which I am a proud member, is to close the gap in understanding, but by teaching scientists how to communicate with the public. I took a couple of their webinars, and oh my God, I thought I was good at it. Well, my eyes were opened, and I'm very, very grateful to them. Because, as has been said, we'll only protect what we love, and we'll only love what we understand. So, stereotypes. Yeah, I get emotional. Sorry. But what qualities do scientists share? Forgetting about stereotypes, there are 3 that I've picked out. Scientists are a diverse group with diverse interests, abilities, backgrounds, but most share 3 qualities. The first quality is curiosity, and its sister, questioning. And curiosity is born from a sense of wonder or interest. And for too many people, something happens between elementary and high school. Maybe poverty, maybe religious requirements, sexism, racism, or discouragement from parents or teachers. And that something inhibits or erases interest in the world around them. But curiosity and questioning are among our most precious possessions. They are where everything starts. And it can start with an adult as well as with a child. It's not restricted. For children or adults, it may begin with a good experience that one wants to repeat or further explore. For example, a child at the beach discovering life in a tide pool. And that was part of my story. I fell in love with the ocean when I was 7. And I was fortunate to have parents who, while I was a child, were patient and didn't laugh at my questions. And one of my questions was, where does the beach end? One morning, I decided to walk and find out. And several hours later, a Jeep pulled up with my very worried parents in it. But when I asked them where the beach ends, I explained that's why I was walking. They explained to me that the beach goes all around the land. It doesn't end. That was part of getting a bit of confidence. It was like a jewel. So parents have to learn how to answer a child's questions. I'm not talking about the 2-year-olds who keep saying, why? I'm talking about 4-year-olds and up. And they may say things like, oh, why is the sky blue? Or why is grass green? Or what do animals do all day? And actually that question, what do birds do all day, was asked me by an adult. Parents have to learn how to answer the quiet child's questions honestly, saying, I don't know, if that's the case, but never suggesting that they're stupid or tiresome. It's better to say, that's an interesting question, I don't know the answer. Why don't you check it out? Or we can check it out. And encouraging questioning as a as a worthwhile thing to do, just as the child is a worthwhile being. At the same time, curiosity must have ethical limits, reflecting respect for the dignity of other species. My field is animal behavior and ecology, and believe me, that's something about which I think every day. And the BC SPCA offers summer camps for children that emphasize respect for other animals. Many journals, like the journal Animal Behavior, the journal of the society I belong to, will reject manuscripts whose methods mistreat the animal subject. There's whole sections in different journals on the ethics of experimentation, and I urge you to read those to support them. Some granting agencies will reject proposals for similar reasons. Dissections in high school and college classes are being replaced with a variety of learning aids, like computer diagrams or plastic models. I was instrumental in starting some of that at Langara College. It's something I'm very proud of. And teachers and students at several veterinary schools have expressed a desire to use alternatives to dissection, at least at the beginning of their training. The paper on that was published in 2005. So the first characteristic was curiosity and her sister questioning. The second is skepticism. And skepticism can be defined as an unwillingness to accept a statement at face value. Now, scientists are trained in skepticism, but we all are skeptics whenever we hold an idea or a statement at arm's length rather than automatically believing it. Operationally, this means asking questions, checking the source of information. If any of you follow any of the marvelous checking, what are they, like Politico, whichever the Washington Post gives Pinocchios for lies told by the U.S. government. So you check the source of information, require independent confirmation. For example, a study may show X or Y or Z. Well, who funds that study? Is it industry? Is there an axe to grind here? Is it an impartial funder? And you have to determine whether a statement is testable, evidence-based, rather than faith or ideology-based. Now for the subversive part of my talk. A couple of them. Authority, being a president, we will forget about the president south of us, or a government minister, a senior in one's own department, or even somebody who's just older than you are, does not guarantee accuracy, does not guarantee having the right answer to something. So skepticism is actually revolutionary, and the muzzling of scientists, as occurred under Harper, is an attempt to gain or maintain control. Censorship is not part of healthy science. The take-home message for everyone, scientist or not, is speak up for scientific freedom. Contact your MP, MLA, city council, an appropriate NGO, online newspaper, social media. Make a fuss. If we don't speak out, who will? Silence, is looked upon as tacit consent. Don't be silent. The third characteristic of most scientists, and I just have to add this because it's really important, is humility. As a scientist, I accept that my results may be discarded as new information becomes available. And that happened to me with one of my beloved hypotheses when I was working on sex-changing fish. About 5 years later, another paper was published with another explanation for my results that was actually better than mine. It struck me as impossible I should be other than perfect, but so it was. Absolute certainty does not exist. Science involves asking questions of the natural world without imposing our preferences and biases, knowing that we might be mistaken, knowing that we're fallible. So what is the scientific method? I have a feeling I may be running out of time, but I want to get through a little more of this. The thing about the scientific method, which has gotten a lot of lip service, is that it's available to all of us. And we all in our daily lives use a variant of it. I won't have time to describe the formal scientific method. I suggest you go on the internet, look it up. It's really, it makes interesting reading. It will put you to sleep if you're not interested. But I have a feeling you'll probably want to learn more. So we use a variant almost daily. It begins with an observation. For example, I walk into a room, flick a light switch, and the lamp that's supposed to go on stays dark. Then comes a question. Why? And then come educated guesses. And educated guesses in our lingo are called hypotheses. Okay? Not theories. Theory in the lay terminology is different than theory in scientific terminology, and I'm not going there. But hypotheses are educated guesses. And then come experiments, one at a time, to test each of the hypotheses. So for our uncooperative lamp, maybe the bulb is out. Maybe there's something wrong with the wiring in the lamp. Maybe the wall socket is gone. Maybe the switch. So you test each of these in turn. And once you find the answer, you don't have to continue your testing, and you certainly don't have to replicate those results. And that's why I called it a variant. But the dependability of the scientific method increases our confidence in the results. And that is one of the key messages. We may take an aspirin or acetaminophen without worrying they will kill us. And research into food safety has led to fewer foodborne diseases as we accept and use recommended safety practices. But applied science always depends on basic science, which by its very nature is independent science. It is not directed toward a specific, possibly profitable goal, but it seeks to understand natural life processes. The same is true for the physical world. It boldly goes where no one has gone before. I'm a Trekkie. Yes. But it's true. This is the great, wonderful thing about basic science. You're going into the unknown. You don't know what the results will be. And I remember the first time that happened to me, I was terrified. I called my mentor, long distance, and I said, I got such and such results. This can't be true. And he just laughed, and he said, keep going, and he hung up. So I kept going. I didn't need to call him after that. So this kind of science cannot be led by industry. It cannot be subjected to political priorities. It's the bedrock on which applied science rests. For example, I'll give you 2 examples. I'm almost done. Basic research on cell biology, including the discovery and the investigation of DNA, has brought new treatments online for previously intractable diseases. Basic science can give birth to applied science and its benefits. Basic research into the life history characteristics of different species, which is some of what I've done, has led to more realistic plans for conservation, including recognition of the need for an ecosystem approach rather than a single species approach to environmental assessment procedures. Yet Canadian science today is significantly underfunded by government. In spite of Trudeau's promises and the inclusion of new money for federal granting agencies in the first Liberal budget, would you believe, in this second Liberal budget, the one that came out last month, there was no more money allocated for scientific agencies. And this has created a potentially critical funding situation. The next federal budget isn't due until 2018, and some labs will not last until then. And last week, a national report on the state of federal funding for basic research in Canada, federal, I'm not talking provincial, that's stated that after years of funding neglect under Harper, Canadian science is still slipping compared to the rest of the world. We, you and I, and our kids, and everybody, must press both federal and provincial governments to properly fund basic science and, most important, to reverse the trend toward connecting science to commercialization and industry. Only by increasing opportunities to study fundamental processes will Canadian science be able to contribute significantly to the challenges facing our planet. Thank you.